In the dim glow of an Istanbul hospital room, Alara clutched the edge of the bed, her heart pounding as she stared at the man she once feared, now fighting for his life. "Please, Amir, don't leave me," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. The monitors beeped erratically, and just as the doctor burst in with urgent news, the world seemed to freeze. Would their love survive this final test? But to understand the depth of this moment, we must journey back through the twists of fate that brought them here, unraveling a tale of forced beginnings, fiery conflicts, and unbreakable bonds. Let's rewind to where it all began, in the bustling streets of Istanbul, where the call to prayer echoed from minarets and the scent of spiced tea wafted through narrow alleys. Alara Kaya was the epitome of innocence, a 22-year-old university student with wide, curious hazel eyes that sparkled like the Bosphorus under sunlight. She lived in a modest apartment in the historic Fatih district, surrounded by the comforting hum of her family's daily life. Her days were a gentle rhythm, waking at dawn to the sound of her mother's clattering pots in the kitchen, helping knead dough for fresh simit bread in their small family bakery downstairs, and then rushing off to her classes at Istanbul University, where she studied fine arts and literature. Alara's sketches filled notebooks, delicate renderings of the Hagia Sophia's domes, the vibrant tulip gardens in spring, and dreamy portraits of lovers from ancient myths. She dreamed of one day exhibiting her work in a gallery, capturing the soul of Turkey through her brushstrokes. Raised in a conservative Turkish family, Alara's world was one of tradition and warmth. Her father, Mehmet, a stern but devoted man in his late 50s, ran a struggling textile business that specialized in handwoven carpets passed down through generations. He had always been her protector, shielding her from the city's underbelly. The late-night revelers, the shadowy deals in the Grand Bazaar, the whispers of corruption that tainted even the most beautiful places. Her mother, Ayla, was the heart of the home, a woman with kind eyes and calloused hands from years of baking and sewing. Alara had two younger siblings, a mischievous brother, Can, who was 15 and obsessed with football, and a shy sister, Selin, 18, who shared Alara's love for poetry. Family dinners were sacred, filled with laughter, stories of ancestors, and the occasional heated debate about modern Turkey versus old customs. Alara believed in love as something pure and patient, like the slow bloom of a rose in her mother's garden. She had never dated, her heart untouched by the fleeting crushes of her classmates. Modest in her attire, long skirts, simple blouses, and a light hijab that framed her face, she carried herself with a quiet grace that turned heads without her noticing. But beneath that innocence lay a quiet strength. Alara had faced her own trials, the loss of her grandmother to illness 2 years prior, which had deepened her appreciation for fleeting moments, and the financial strains on her family that sometimes meant skipping art supplies to afford basics. She volunteered at a local orphanage on weekends, reading stories to children and teaching them to draw, finding joy in their wide-eyed wonder. It was during one such session that she first heard whispers of arranged marriages among her friends' families, tales of duty over desire that made her shudder. "I'd rather stay single forever," she'd confide to Selin, both giggling under the covers. Little did she know, fate had already scripted a different path, one that would shatter her fairy tale illusions and rebuild them into something real and raw. Across the city, in the upscale hills of Bebek, Amir Demir lived a life as turbulent as the Black Sea storms. At 25, he was the city's notorious bad boy, a figure of intrigue and infamy. His days blurred into nights of adrenaline, roaring through traffic on his sleek black Harley-Davidson, the engine's growl matching his restless spirit. His leather jacket, scarred from countless street brawls and near misses, hung on his broad shoulders like armor. With piercing green eyes that could cut through lies and a jawline chiseled by both genetics and hardship, Amir exuded a dangerous charm. Tattoos peeked from his sleeves, a phoenix rising from ashes on his arm, symbolizing rebirth he hadn't yet achieved, and Arabic script on his chest quoting a Rumi poem about love's fire. Born into wealth, Amir's family owned a sprawling import-export empire, dealing in everything from luxury spices to electronics. His father, Hassan, was a ruthless tycoon in his 60s, a man who built his fortune through sharp deals and questionable alliances, ruling his household with an iron fist. Amir's mother, Layla, had been the light in that darkness, a gentle soul who sang lullabies and encouraged his early drawings. But when Amir was just 12, a tragic car accident on the rainy roads to Ankara claimed her life. Hassan, grief-stricken and bitter, blamed Amir for not being in the car to protect her, though the boy had been at school. From that day, Amir's world fractured. He rebelled hard, skipping classes, falling into street racing circuits, and associating with a crowd of misfits in Beyoğlu's underground scene. Rumors abounded. He'd won illegal bets on drag races along the Golden Horn, brokered shady deals for smuggled goods to fund his escapades, and left a string of heartbroken women who chased his thrill but couldn't touch his soul. Amir smoked packs of cigarettes a day, the haze clouding his thoughts, and drowned sorrows in raki at dimly lit Mayhane bars. Trust was a luxury he couldn't afford, friends were temporary, loyalty fleeting. Yet, deep in his core, buried under layers of cynicism, was a yearning for connection. He'd sneak into art galleries at night, staring at paintings that reminded him of his mother's stories, or ride to secluded spots overlooking the sea to sketch in a hidden notebook. Rough, emotional drawings of stormy waves and broken chains. His father pushed him to join the business, grooming him for takeovers and mergers, but Amir resisted, seeing it as chains binding him to a life of emptiness. "You're wasting your potential," Hassan would bark during their frequent clashes. Amir's response: a slammed door and the rev of his bike fading into the night. Their worlds collided not by chance, but by calculation. Mehmet's textile business teetered on bankruptcy. Rising costs, competition from cheap imports, and a bad loan had drained their savings. Desperate, he approached Hassan Demir, an old acquaintance from trade fairs, proposing a merger. Combine their operations, infuse capital into the textiles, and expand Hassan's empire into traditional crafts. Hassan, ever the opportunist, agreed, but with a condition. "Our families unite properly," he declared over strong coffee in his opulent office. "Your daughter marries my son. It seals the deal, honors tradition." Mehmet hesitated, his heart heavy, but visions of his family's ruin pushed him to consent. Alara was informed that evening, the words dropping like stones into still water. The news shattered her. "Baba, no. I don't even know him," she protested, tears welling as Ayla held her. Mehmet's face was etched with regret. "It's for all of us, Kazim. He's not a bad man at heart. Give it time." Alara spent sleepless nights, her mind racing with fears of losing her freedom, her dreams, herself. She researched Amir online, finding tabloid snippets of his wild life, photos from parties, a blurred image of a street fight. Terror gripped her. How could she marry a stranger, let alone one like him? Amir's reaction was explosive. "A forced marriage? Are you insane, father?" he roared in the marble-floored living room of their mansion. Hassan remained unmoved. "It's business. She's from a good family, pure, traditional. She'll ground you, make you the man I need for this empire." Amir stormed out, punching a wall on his way, knuckles bleeding. He rode aimlessly through the city, wind whipping his face, questioning if this was his punishment for a life of rebellion. Deep down, a flicker of curiosity stirred. What if this girl could see past his mask? The engagement party was a tense affair, held in Hassan's sprawling garden overlooking the Bosphorus. Fairy lights twinkled like stars, tables groaned under mezes and kebabs, and traditional music played softly. Alara arrived in an emerald green dress, her hands trembling as she adjusted her hijab. Relatives murmured approvals, but she felt like her exhibit. Amir lounged against a pillar, nursing a drink, his smirk a shield. Introduced by their fathers, their eyes met, hers wide with apprehension, his narrowed in assessment. "So, you're the lamb they're sacrificing to the wolf," he quipped, his voice rough like gravel under tires. Alara's cheeks flushed, but she lifted her chin. "And you're the wolf who might find he's not as fierce as he thinks." The retort surprised him, a genuine laugh escaping. For a moment, amid the chatter, they shared a silent understanding. Neither wanted this, but perhaps they could navigate it together. Preparations for the wedding consumed the next weeks. Alara's days blurred into fittings for her white gown embroidered with gold threads, henna nights where women sang ancient songs of love and loss, and whispered advice from aunts about marital duties. She confided in Selin. What if he hates me? What if I can't love him? Selin hugged her. You're stronger than you know, Abla. Amir, meanwhile, buried his anxiety in work and rides, but Hassan forced him into suit fittings and business meetings. One evening, he visited his mother's grave in a quiet cemetery, laying flowers. What would you say, Anne? Am I doomed? The wind rustled leaves, offering no answer. The wedding day dawned crisp and golden, the grand mosque in Sultanahmet filled with incense and murmurs. Alara walked down the aisle on Mehmet's arm, her veil shimmering, heart hammering. Amir stood tall in a tailored tuxedo, his usual scruff trimmed, looking every bit the reluctant prince. The imam recited verses from the Quran, their vows exchanged in hushed tones, promises of fidelity, respect, and companionship. Rings slid onto fingers, cold metal symbolizing their bound fates. As they signed the Nikah contract, Alara glanced at Amir, seeing a vulnerability in his eyes that mirrored her own. The reception followed in a lavish hall, dances swirling, toasts raised. But beneath the joy, tension simmered. That night, in their honeymoon suite at a seaside hotel in Bodrum, the air crackled with uncertainty. Amir paced the balcony, lighting a cigarette, the sea crashing below. This is bullshit, he growled, exhaling smoke. I didn't ask for a wife, especially not some innocent girl who looks at me like I'm the devil incarnate. Alara sat on the edge of the king-sized bed, her wedding dress pulled around her, fighting tears. I didn't choose this either. My dreams, my art. Everything feels stolen. Her voice broke, and Amir turned, really seeing her fragility. He stubbed out the cigarette, approaching slowly. Hey, I'm not going to force anything. We can figure this out, separately, if you want. His tone softened, a crack in his armor. Alara nodded, grateful. They slept on opposite sides of the bed, the space between them a chasm, but it was the first step toward bridging it. Their early married life was a minefield of adjustments. They moved into a modern apartment in Nisanasi, a blend of Alara's cozy touches, vibrant cushions, her sketches on walls, and Amir's minimalist style, leather furniture, a bike in the corner. Mornings were awkward, Alara brewing tea, Amir grabbing coffee on the go. He dragged her into his world reluctantly at first, inviting her to a casual dinner with his racing buddies. The club pulsed with bass, neon lights flashing. Alara clutched her shawl, overwhelmed by the laughter and stares. This isn't me, she whispered. Amir sighed. It doesn't have to be, but try for one night. As the evening wore on, she relaxed, even cracking a joke that earned laughs. On the ride home, wind in her hair, she admitted, it wasn't all bad, but conflicts erupted like fireworks. Amir's late nights worried her. She'd wait up, pacing. One argument escalated when she found his hidden pack of cigarettes. You promised to quit, she yelled. You don't control me, he shot back, slamming the door. He rode off, anger fueling speed, but hours later, he returned, finding her asleep on the couch. Gently covering her with a blanket, guilt gnawed at him. The next day, he tossed the pack away. For you, he muttered. Deeper connections formed in quiet moments. One rainy afternoon, Alara shared her art, sketching him as he read. You have kind eyes when you're not scowling, she teased. Amir opened up about his mother, showing old photos. She'd have liked you, pure-hearted, like her. Alara touched his hand, a spark igniting. Their first kiss happened spontaneously, during a walk in Gulhane Park, raindrops mingling with tears of shared pain. It was tentative, then passionate, a promise of more. Yet, Amir's past clung like shadows. His old associates, led by a slick operator named Karam, involved in smuggling counterfeit luxury items, lured him back with a one-last-job pitch. Easy money, bro, for your new life. Amir resisted, but temptation loomed as business pressures mounted. Alara sensed it, finding cryptic texts on his phone. What's this? She confronted. Nothing you need to worry about, he deflected. Hurt, she withdrew, spending more time at the bakery. The first cliffhanger brewed during a family outing to the Prince's Islands. On the ferry, Amir's phone buzzed incessantly, Karam demanding a meet. Alara overheard, her face paling. Are you going back to that life? As they docked, a storm hit, waves crashing. Amir hesitated, torn. I have to end it properly. He left her on the island, promising to return, but as thunder roared, gunshots echoed from a distant warehouse where the deal soured. Alara waited in the rain, phone in hand, heart in throat. Would he come back alive, or had she lost him to the darkness? Hours later, Amir burst through the door, bloodied from a graze, collapsing into her arms. It's over. I told them no. Alara bandaged him, sobs mixing with relief. Don't ever scare me like that again. That night, vulnerability stripped them bare. They made love, not as strangers, but as partners forging something real. Months passed, love deepening. Amir enrolled in business courses, legitimizing his father's empire. Alara's art flourished, her pieces selling at local fairs. They traveled to Cappadocia, hot air balloons carrying them over fairy chimneys, where Amir proposed a real commitment. Marry me again, willingly. Tears in her eyes, she said yes. But new trials emerged. Alara's pregnancy brought joy and fear. Morning sickness hit hard, and Amir's panic surfaced, memories of his father's coldness haunting him. What if I'm like him? Counseling sessions helped, raw and emotional, rebuilding trust. The second cliffhanger unfolded during a business trip. Alara, alone, received forged photos of Amir with Layla. His ex devastated, she packed a bag. Confronting him upon return, screams echoed. Is this us? As police knocked, false tip about smuggling, Amir was arrested. Alara stood frozen. Believe him or let go? Her investigation uncovered Layla's jealousy. Freeing him, their bond strengthened. Eris's birth was miraculous, Amir cutting the cord, vowing protection. Years built a tapestry. Family vacations to Antalya's beaches, where Eris built sandcastles. Alara's gallery opening. Amir beaming. Business successes clean and ethical. Challenges like cultural clashes, Alara's family judging Amir's past, were met with unity. Circling back to the hospital, Amir's accident from a reckless ride after a deal gone wrong. The doctor smiled. He'll recover. Alara kissed him awake. We're unbreakable. Their story inspires. Love redeems, transforms. From force to forever, it whispers hope. If this touched you, like and subscribe for more.